Okay, hello everybody. Short video just to get us back in the zone for what we learned last class that will launch us into today. So very quickly, our main question, our driving question for this unit is, why is the tripper patur for breaking Jimmy's vessel? Again, Jimmy put his little pitcher in public. I go racing over it, I trip over it and break it, and I'm patur. Why am I patur? We've been saying the whole time, Adam muad le'olam. People are always responsible for their actions. Why am I patur if I trip over and break Jimmy's vessel? That was the case in the Gemara. Nitkal v'shivra patur. I trip over it, v'shavra, I break it, I'm patur. What is the deal with that? So we saw three answers. Let's go down over here. We saw three answers. Rav gave the first answer that no, usually people, of course, would be chayav. If I tripped over Jimmy's vessel, I'd be chayav. But the Mishnah was talking about a unique case where I filled the where the entire area, Jimmy had filled the entire area with little pitchers, and I had no choice. So I broke it because I had nowhere else to walk. That's the only reason why I'm chayav. That was Rav's opinion. Shmuel's opinion was, yeah, you're right. Usually I would be chayav. But this case in the Mishnah was unique. It was a situation where it was dark outside. The case of the Mishnah is where it was nighttime. That's the only reason why I'm patur. And finally, we had the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan that, yes, again, usually I should be chayav for breaking Jimmy's vessel. But the cases where Jimmy put his vessel right at the corner of where people would normally make a turn, and that's why I broke it, and that's why I'm patur. Now, the common denominator of these three opinions, Rav, Shmuel, and Rabbi Yochanan, there's a common thread here, which is ibai le liyune. That's a phrase from the Gemara, which means I need to normally watch where I'm going. People need to watch where they're going. Ibai leili yune. You do have to watch where you're going. I have to watch where I'm going. The only reason why I'm patur, according to the Mishnah, is because there was a reasonable cause for me to mess up in this instance. Again, either the whole area was filled with stuff, it was dark, the object was on a corner. There was some reasonable cause over here for me to trip over it. But normally, ibai leiliune. Ibai leiliune. I need to watch where I'm going. Okay, very good. So that's all fine and great. The Gemara then had the following difficulty with one of these three opinions. It had a difficulty with the opinion of Rav. I'll highlight it down here. It had a difficulty with the opinion of Rav. Because let's go back and look at our Mishnah. The Mishnah said, this is the case again. Nitkal, I tripped over it. I broke it, and I'm patur. One second. I tripped over it, and I broke it, and I'm patur. 1 second, Rav. Why am I only patur if I tripped over it? According to this Rav's idea that the whole area was filled with pitchers, I shouldn't only be patur if I tripped over it. I should be patur even if vishavra, even if I smashed all those pitchers, I should be patur. Think about it. If Jimmy put little pitchers all around my yard, and I come outside and I have nowhere to walk, I shouldn't only be patur if I tripped over it. I should be patur even if I actively smashed all of it. I had no choice. I have no other opportunity. I have nowhere else to go. Why does the Mishnah say this is a case where I tripped over it? And the Gemara, based on that, wants to say that Rav's opinion doesn't really make sense. Let's look at that in the Gemara right now. Here we go. We look over here. This is the question of Rav Papa. Amar Rav Papa. Rav Papa said, Lo daika matnitin our Mishnah doesn't fit. Ella o kishmuel o ki Rabbi Yochanan. It only fits according to Shmuel, or it fits according to Rabbi Yochanan. It only fits according to these two opinions. Why? De'i kirav, if we're saying it is like Rav, my Arya Nitkal. Why would the Mishnah say he tripped? Afilu Shavar nami. Even if I broke these pitchers on purpose, I should be also patur. Again, if Rav is correct, that the case of the Mishnah is where Jimmy filled the whole area with pitchers, the case shouldn't be I tripped over it. The case should be even if I actively broke it, I should be patur. To which the Gemara says, Amar Rav Zvid Mishmei de Rava. Rav Zvid said in the name of Rava, you're right. Hu adin defilu shavar. You're right. You're right. In the case, if Rav is correct, this is what the case is. You are correct that even if I went around smashing these vessels with my hammer or my baseball bat, I would be patur. The Mishnah could have just said, I smashed it. The Mishnah did not have to use the word tripped over it. Okay, so why did the Mishnah use and I tripped over it? V'hai diktani nitkal, and the reason why the Mishnah used the word tripped is because Aidi debaye lematne seifa. It's because of the seifa of the Mishnah. It's because the end of the Mishnah. The end of the Mishnah says, Ve'im hu zakba bal hachavitz chayav benisko. The reason why the Mishnah used the case of tripping over it is because of the seifa. It's because of the second case of the Mishnah. The second case of the Mishnah was that if I go tripping over this vessel and now I hurt myself, not that I broke it, but that I hurt myself, I got a piece of pottery stuck in my foot or something, in that case, Bal HaChavit Chayav B'Nisko. Jimmy, who owns the pitcher, is going to be chayav to pay me nezek. But when is that true? That's true did davka nitkal, only where I tripped. Aval shavar, but if I actively went and started smashing things, and then a piece of glass went and broke and went into my foot, so then no, Jimmy's not going to be chayav to pay me. My tama, why not? What's the reason? Because hu da'azik anafshe. Because then I would be damaging myself. If I go around smashing things and then I get hurt, so Jimmy's not going to be chayav to pay me because I basically hurt myself. So because the seifa only makes sense, the second case of the Mishnah only is true when I trip, Ktani Reisha Nitkal. The first case of the Mishnah is expressed using the case of tripping. Let's look at my little trusty diagram over here. Okay? The first case of the Mishnah is V'nitkal ba v'shavra patur. If, the first case of the Mishnah was, and I trip over it and I break it, I'm patur. Now again, let's read that Mishnah using Rav's lens. Rav says this case is referring to where Jimmy filled my whole courtyard with pitchers. And the Mishnah says, if I tripped over and broke it, I'm patur. So one second. If Rav is correct, why am I only patur if I tripped over it? The Mishnah should have said, even if I smash them, I'm patur. Which would be, again, a bigger chiddush. I can actively go and smash them and I'd be patur. Why then did the Mishnah use the word v'nitkal? It's not true. It's not only if I accidentally tripped over them, I'm allowed to break them. Explains the Gemara, yeah, that can work with Rav. Rav can still say the Mishnah should have used the word trip here because we need the case of it being tripping for the second case of the Mishnah. The second case of the Mishnah was Ve'im hu zakba bal hachavit chayav benisko. If, again, I trip over Jimmy's vessels and hurt myself, that's when chayav benisko. That's when Jimmy's chayav. I have to trip for Jimmy to be chayav. But if I actively smashed things, Jimmy would not be chayav for damages. Jimmy would be patur because I have damaged myself. So in other words, because the seifa, the second case of the Mishnah, needs to be about tripping, the reisha, or the first case, is also expressed as one of tripping, right? This Mishnah is all one, right? The case is if I tripped over something and broke it, I'm patur, and if the object damaged me, I'm chayav. Jimmy will be chayav. Because the second part of this Mishnah only makes sense if we're referring to where I tripped over Jimmy's object, the reisha is also expressed as me tripping over it, even though it is true that in that first part of the Mishnah, even if I would have actively smashed those vessels, I would also be patur. So I know it's a little tricky. Again, this video is around 11 and a half minutes. You can go back and look at it again. But we've got these two cases. The reason why Nitkal is used in the reisha is because it has to be referring to Nitkal tripping in the seifa. Okay? I'd like you to summarize that idea in a short Google Doc. I want you to send that to me as your check for understanding, assuming that it is clear that you understand that part of the back and forth in our Gemara. We can move to the next and final section, which is going to be what I'm calling the concept showdown. Oh, that's exciting.